this is something that you want to start thinking about at your current rank, being like S plus. And as you want to continue to like to keep ranking up and elevating your play, like you have a good understanding of the game hitting this rank, but the next step is starting to understand how you actually win the game and start figuring out what that looks like. When you take control of mid, and not just zone, but like when you take control of mid on this map, there's two ways that you can play after. And in a spot where you have enough time and y'all freshly got 3 down, so it's going to take a little bit for them to respawn. So when you have like this, because they just got splatted, that means you have more time to work with. And when you have more time to work with, you want to take more aggressive positioning. Really good aggressive positioning on this map is climbing up into mid and then using one of these fins to jump onto their plat, or you can jump this way, just depending on where the fin is. But use top mid, jump onto their plat, control their plat. You can stall them for a long time using this backside of the wall of like this spinner that's on their plat, like this whole spinner here. If you sit on this side of it, you can kind of shark in these types of spots. Where's the other? I think it goes like right here. But like you can shark on these spots on the plot. You can look to get up top of here. You can even climb their grates, either the offensive grate or the defensive grate, and take high ground on them potentially and like catch them off guard. But I would just take their plot and just kind of get paint here. So, you know, you're in most spots, the enemy team's going to kind of back you out and you'll end up having to drop off of the plot, but you at least stall them. And the longer you stall them, the more points that your team ends up scoring. I'm okay with it. We'll let the opening play out and then I'll kind of talk through certain parts. This is a very extended play. Okay, we're gonna have to stop. I thought something was gonna break at a certain point. The first thing I would say, if you're gonna go for this right flank, I wouldn't focus on the zone. So if people look for this kind of opening, which I think is fine, like I'm okay with it. My goal isn't immediately to be out in the open and start painting zone. If you're gonna go for this aggressive play, I'd rather you be a little bit more aggressive. And like I said, a couple of ideas is like you get a splat bomb here, you can get a splat bomb back here. You can just kind of paint this area here. It's also good as like a short range shooter to like shark this spot here underneath the ledge, because if people drop out from this direction, you have the jump on them. And if people drop out from this direction, you can either jump on them or you can look to back up at that point. So I just think general positioning with this aggressive opening is like totally fine. But what you do after you get into that spot is I'd rather you continue and be more aggressive. Take these aggressive spots and like try to bully these people. Force them to stay on their plat so that your teammates can, you know, kind of follow up and do everything. So when you're coming back, I'd rather just route this way to get to this spot so you're not like out in the open and potentially can get chipped from like a bomb, or we might get into the crossfire of what your teammate's doing. But I'd rather you route here on this left side. And then, you know, once you get, like, I think getting to the spot is fine because you can look to flank around and behind and get underneath. You can look to get underneath this like ledge that spans like across their plot. If you get to that ledge, you can potentially get a flank on those people, which is good. You can sit here and throw a bomb closer to zone. Like, we're already taking fights around zone. I'd rather that bomb be used like in and around the zone. You're in the middle of like a million of different crossfires, and this is the consequence of not having a plan with your routing. You don't really, like, it seems like so far in this game, from when you dropped here and then when you end up rotating to that left side, I feel like there isn't a specific play in mind that you're going for. Just that like, oh, I know zone's good, and I'm just like, the positioning and the routing feels a little aimless, and I'd rather there be some more decisive, you know, I'm sitting in this spot and like checking these areas. Yeah, because like your team gets an advantage. Nice shots. Those really nice shots. When your team has an advantage and you're not really sure what you're doing with it, and this goes back to like not having a game plan. So again, routing here and sticking to this ledge is super sick. I love that. But yeah, like you probably should have died to Snipe Raider here. But good job collapsing and moving in between shots. That was good. But there's no plan. Right now the enemy team's 3 down. And this is something that you want to start thinking about at your current rank, being like S plus. And as you want to continue to like to keep ranking up and elevating your play, like you have a good understanding of the game hitting this rank, but the next step is starting to understand how you actually win the game and start figuring out what that looks like. On a map like this, and there still is the orange zap up, but y'all have enough numbers where you can start being more aggressive with your positioning. With these types of numbers, like you end up coming back here because you're just like trying to play safe and play like try to stay alive. But based off of intuition, and there's a good chance that the last person is on their side of the map. But regardless, I think you just want to go aggressive. When you take control of mid, and not just zone, but like when you take control of mid on this map, there's 2 ways that you can play after. And in a spot where you have enough time and y'all freshly got 3 down, so it's going to take a little bit for them to respawn. So when you have like this, because they just got splatted, that means you have more time to work with. And when you have more time to work with, you want to take more aggressive positioning. Really good aggressive positioning on this map is climbing up into mid and then using one of these fins to jump onto their plat, or you can jump this way, just depending on where the fin is. But use top mid, jump onto their plat, control their plat. You can stall them for a long time using this backside of the wall of like this spinner that's on their plat, like this whole spinner here. If you sit on this side of it, you can kind of shark in these types of spots. Where's the other? I think it goes like right here. But like you can shark on these spots on the plat. You can look to get up top of here. You can even climb their grates, either the offensive grate or the defensive grate, and take high ground on them potentially and like catch them off guard. But I would just take their plat and just kind of get paint here. So, you know, you're in most spots, the enemy team's going to kind of back you out and you'll end up having to drop off of the plat, but you at least stall them. And the longer you stall them, the more points that your team ends up scoring. But you have to be really fast in order to take their plat. Because if you take their plat and they're already positioned in these spots to stop you from jumping over, then you're just going to feed. So timing is super, super key. And when you notice that they're 3 down, and the last person isn't like, you know, if the last person's like a Snipe Raider on their, you know, on their plat here, you could potentially push them, but you don't want to like jump from top mid to try to get onto the plat because you'll probably get splatted. Against the orange zap, I'm totally confident going for that play. But the other thing that you can do, if you can't make it up to their plat, so if you're unable to make it up to their plat, paint this far right side, get paint under their ledges, and then start paint their plat from like down here. And you can still stall them a little bit when they're on their plat trying to retake. You can throw bombs, but you know, you want to push this right side and make them really uncomfortable. Because if they can only drop from this like one direction, then you have a better chance of potentially splatting them. And that's where like knowing where to shark as a short range shooter on this map is really good. Because you can paint all of this and be sitting on this right side here, ready to bully the enemy team. And then once they start throwing bombs at you and like looking to drop, then you can start taking like these types of shark positions underneath their ledge, or if you want to be a little bit more defensive, you can be behind this block. You know, you can take these weird off angles in spots and potentially, you know, if they don't know you're there, these are the off angles are a little bit more risky, but if they don't know you're there, there's like less of a chance of them potentially spotting you. So that's what I want you to do. Is overall, this is just the concept of taking space, but that's some examples on this map of how you do it, especially as a short range shooter. You want to control these ledges, or if you can get onto their plat, this is like the ultimate goal. This is the dream. If you jump up to their plat and you stall them on their plat, it allows your dapples to either jump to you or they can also cross through mid. It allows your machine to be more effective with guarding this. You know, they can sit on this perimeter and they actually have the ability to splat the enemy with like arcing over that plat and arcing over that ledge. And the same thing with blob, like they can probably sit mid or sit somewhere like in one of these spots or something, or they can sit very far over here and they can just, you know, make trails of bubbles. And if the enemy team's stalled in place and they're already having to reposition a lot to deal with your pressure and your dapple's pressure, then they may end up getting splatted. So, you know, holding the enemy team into position is really important. That being said, if you control their plat too much, they may potentially drop here on the left side. So that flank is something you have to consider, but this is very risky and only certain weapons are able to excel in these types of spots. So, you know, holding their plat's always good, but they may potentially try to start trickling in here, especially the Tetras. Tetras is actually really good at, you know, dropping down here and kind of rolling around and being a distraction. So I hope that makes sense. And you end up trying to cross. Unfortunately, you keep hitting this thing. Something to practice potentially. I think there's better angles that you can go for. I really like this positioning that you have. I think throwing a bomb here is good. All 4 of them are down here. I would honestly take this opportunity and cross over to their plot. Because if you get to their plat, their team is so uncomfortable because you're behind all of them and you can start, like, you don't have to immediately drop. You can take it a little bit slower, but you get to like paint from behind and force them uncomfortably to like have to move forward or like have to do some ridiculous stuff. But in these types of scenarios, I definitely think you can continue to be aggressive. I love the aggressive spot that you had and the bomb was perfect, but you know, even if there isn't, because I agree with you. I think you dropped back because there wasn't a safe high percentage drop that you could go on and take a fight with. So I'm glad you had the restraint not to just jump at them. But I think an option that a lot of people don't necessarily see is being able to go across under their plot and make the enemy team really uncomfortable. You are... like, there is a chance, because the machine knows you're there, there's a chance when you're crossing that the machine spots you, but I'm willing to take that risk every time, especially if you just, like, super commit to it and you're just as fast as you can. But there's a lot of times where you, like, put yourself in the initial, like, initially really good positions. You're either... it's either a lack of confidence or it's a lack of map knowledge of continuing those plays, getting onto their plot in spots where you can safely get onto their plot. Generally, you get onto their plot when you wipe them, but if they've all dropped and like there's these weird spots where you can push through mid and get behind them, even if they're all alive or if 3 of them are alive, but they're not in a spot to stop you, you can still go for those aggressive plays. Because the way that this map is for zones, like there isn't a good way for them to get back to their plot unless they either go through mid or they jump back, which both of those are super time consuming, super predictable, and the enemy team does not want to do that. Yeah, jumping through mid when they're already there is pretty risky. That was a nice bomb. I'm surprised they didn't get splatted there. A lot of times you just get caught in these like awkward scenarios. And like the feeling that I get watching this gameplay is like super panicked and like a little bit of a lack of confidence. There's really good ideas there, but there's not a commitment. I'm guessing you're probably just gonna just drop, yeah. Like not even dropping with a bomb or anything. Like you're putting yourself unintentionally in really tough positions. And if you make your life easier, I think you find a lot of success. I think you're actually a really strong player, but you're putting yourself in low percentage fights consistently. And that's why this ends up in the way that it does. So the first thing is I want to feel more confidence. You're always moving with no plan. Yeah, I see them. We're wrapping it up. You're always moving around without a plan. And I think your initial movements, because like there was a consistent theme of your initial movements being very, very good. But because you don't have that plan in mind, your continuation is hit or miss. The second thing is, and I guess for the first thing, just to give you some examples, again, this opening, you need to have confidence that you can bully the side because you're here way before the enemy team. And you can be confident by getting this aggressive paint, get aggressive paint over here, you know, again, sit in these types of spots where you can back out or you can, you know, move in different directions depending on how you're getting approached. But keep giving yourself options, but make sure that they're like strong options. Same thing happens in a lot of these spots where, you know, your team is taking fights and pushing the enemy over here. And you don't commit to going all the way around when you have teammates to assist with this play and you can collapse on these people. Because you end up getting like one of these picks and then you start retreating instead of continuing the play. Which gets into the next point, which is some of it's like map knowledge. Knowledge. So for the map knowledge, you want to identify strong positions for your specific weapon. Ideally, you watch like high level players. Level play. And just like steal their plans, steal their game planning, steal their positions. Usually when they take certain spots, it's going to be pretty strong. The other thing you can do is in your matches, steal I put Smurf in quotes, but like if someone pops off in a game, if they get like 20 splats and they're playing the same weapon that you do, remember where they were sitting and how they were getting those splats. And I want you to be able to get better at identifying what's strong on each of the different maps, and then you're able to capitalize on all the good decisions that you make.